And hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with something I haven't ever really done before, and maybe I'm going to start having as a small sort of running segment in my channel, which is I'm going to talk about a video game. I'm a big video game fan. I'm getting even more into video games than I ever have, and I'm especially keen on things like emulation and handheld gaming and stuff like that. So I came across a game which I haven't heard much hype about, and there's not actually much information about it online. And as always with my channel, if there's not something on the internet that I've been looking for, then if I create it or I find it, I share it on my channel. That's the whole point of what I do. So with no further ado, what I'd like to talk about today is a video game called Mayhem Brawler. Now, Mayhem Brawler came out in August 21. It's made by an Eastern European company called Hero Concept, and it is a side-scrolling, two-dimensional beat 'em up. It's basically really good. It's flown under the radar for a lot of people, and I think now it's getting a bit more hype and a bit more traction. But honestly, there's not much information about it online. There aren't too many reviews, there aren't any real guides, and especially, as I'll show you in a second, there's no maps or level guides to how the branching storyline works. And if you know my channel, the one thing I love to do is to map things and map the connections between things. If there was anything that's going to be put on my gravestone, I guess it'll be that. Thomas Judge, he saw the connections between stuff. So, with no further ado, where would you get Mayhem Brawler? Well, you can just buy it virtually. I've got it on the Nintendo Switch, and I think personally that's probably the best format to have it in because it really suits handheld gaming. It's a pick up and play kind of just really fun blast. It's great on the Switch. You can pick it up from the Nintendo eShop. It's also available on PS4 and Xbox One. And yep, highly recommended, which I will try not to say too often in this video, but great game, loads of fun. Check it out on the online shop. Um, what is Mayhem Brawler about? It's about three characters. You've got Trouble, Dolphin, and Star, and they exist in sort of an alternate universe, which is kind of like a. If you've seen Netflix's Bright, the Netflix owned movie with Will Smith, it's a bit like that. It's a universe where there is fantastical stuff like vampires and werewolves and magic and so on against the backdrop of realistic stuff like cars and guns and technology. And in Mayhem Brawler, you play as a police officer for the Mayhem City PD, or what they call Stronghold. And your job is to basically just deal with crimes and deal with stuff. And it's awesome. You can get a feel here of what the art style is like. Here are the three main playable characters. It's worth noting that when this came out in August 21, there were three main playable characters, and all it had was just the game, A to B, all the way through it. Since then, they have done loads of free patches and updates. The biggest one being the 2.1 Wolfpack update that came out in February, which added a fourth character, She-Wolf, who is awesome. And it also added a bunch of other things. So there's like an arcade mode, there's a level select. Long story short, if you heard or saw the early reviews of Mayhem Brawler back in 2021, which were all pretty good, a lot of those reviews said, oh, it'd be good to have a level set, it'd be good to have X, Y, and Z. Those things are all in the game now, and they're all free updates. So if you're on the fence based on what you heard last year, definitely look at it again now because this game is great now. So, with the addition of She-Wolf, you now have a kind of a fourth character in this. She-Wolf is an unlockable character in the game. You don't start off with She-Wolf as a character, but once you play the game, and I'll explain it in the video in a second, you unlock her, and she's great. And they've got great moves, great power sets, etc., etc. So let's dive into it. What I wanted to talk about in this video especially was the branching storyline to the games. In other words, what the different levels are, the different level choices are, and how they get you to particular different endings. The reason I wanted to do this is that there is absolutely zero clarity of this online. There's a couple of achievement guides here and there on a few forums, but no one's really provided any clarity as to what levels lead to what choices and endings and what the consequences are. And so I basically had to work it out myself. And as I did that, I was writing it all down. And I thought, you know what, I'll share it on YouTube. So let's get straight into it. Here we have the first level. No matter what character you pick, this is the level you get. Now, the important thing to keep in mind here is that each level has several titles or subtitles, which is really easy to get confused about. So this level is the start of the shift. It says here, take the call. But the level itself, once you select it, is called the Old Docks, which you can see here on the bottom right. That's what the level is called. And when you start the level, it has a kind of little preface called Pandora's Box, which is, I guess, the subtitle of the level, and is on the cover here. Can I just say, I love these level covers that look like actual comics. I think they're really cool. But yeah, basically, if you're looking even at any particular level, it has 3 or 4 potential names which can get you confused. That's why I'm going to go over them carefully in this guide. So when you start the old docks, you'll see a loading screen like this. So the level is called the old docks. But when the level itself actually starts, and here's some indicative artwork, it actually says Pandora's box in quotation marks, which is kind of confusing. So I will give you all the little names and level breakdowns in this video. If you get confused, feel free to pause and write them down. But it's really useful because while I was looking at this, I was finding lots of different people were using different names for the same levels. And that's going to get even more complicated in a second because there's different art for the same levels, but we'll talk about that in a second. If you play level 1, the old docks, then at the end of the level, you will come across the boss, who's someone called Chainado. This is what he looks like. It's a decent fight. It's a good, solid level, um, and that's fun. So after you fight Chainado, you get given a choice, and here are the 2 possible levels. So this choice is called Stolen Corpse. I guess we'll talk about that again in a second. And you've got a couple options here. Either you visit She-Wolf, or alternatively, you interrogate the truck driver. So for now, let's take the choice on the left. So the left-hand choice is let's visit She-Wolf. And once you pick that, it then shows you that cover amongst all the previous choices that you made. So for now, this is our first choice. So it says Altered Beast on the actual title itself, and then it says go to Chainfield. So the level itself is called Chainfield, and the subtitle is Altered Beast, which we will see in a second. So we get into it. This is the level itself. At the end of it, you fight She-Wolf. That's the boss. And after you fight She-Wolf, you get a choice of 2 different possible things. She gives you an option, and you can either accept her offer, or you can reject her offer. If you accept her offer and select that, this is what it looks like in the map. So keep in mind, you've got the third picture there. The level itself has got the subtitle Concrete Jungle, but the level, as you can see in the bottom right, is called Abandoned Buildings. Now we'll get to that in a second, but before we do, let's pause for a second and let's go back somewhere on our branching journey. So if you remember, we got here by choosing the She-Wolf option between She-Wolf and interrogating the truck driver. Let's imagine instead we chose to interrogate the truck driver. If we're to do that, the level looked like this. And this level is called Riverside. And the subtitle is Mayhem Rock City. The boss of this level is this guy with the guitar. And once you fight him, you get a choice of 2 options. So here, the heavy caster, which is what he's called, doesn't want to be held responsible. You can either arrest him or you can let him go. In this case, let's say we let him go. And again, you'll see a different picture here in the map. But, and this is the really crucial thing, that's the same level as the one we picked with She-Wolf. It's still the abandoned buildings level, and it's still subtitled Concrete Jungle. So although the picture on the cover is different, the level itself is the same. That picture only indicates what choice you made in the level before it. I know it's confusing. It confused the hell out of me, but this is a really good kind of picture to look at if you're trying to work out what choices you made and what levels you chose. So let's say you go into Concrete Jungle, in other words, the level called Abandoned Buildings. However you got into it, you get into it, here's the boss. Like a Nosferatu vampire type thing. Anyway, once you fight that boss, you get an actual choice. And this is a choice that leads to 2 completely different levels. The one on the left is entrance under the statue. The one on the right is entrance at the train graveyard. We're going to go for entrance under the statue, which you can see the picture of here. The subtitle is Circling the Prey. The level is called Green Bridge Park. Now, if we go into that level, we fight that kind of were-pig, were-boar character we saw, who's someone called Oliver, and we fight him. Again, cool fight, great level, great graphics, great gameplay. Once you defeat him, the Beastmaster, or Oliver, gives you a choice. You either arrest him or you let him go. In this instance, we're going to let him go, which then shows you this cover in our maps so far. By the way, this image here is directly from the game. It shows you like a step-by-step guide of the levels that you've picked. So this is a level called Sewer Network, and the subtitle is Gutter Ballet. As before, let's put a pin in it for a second. Let's go back to that choice we made after fighting the Nosferatu. We either chose to go under the statue or through the entrance at the graveyard. This time, let's pick the entrance at the graveyard. that looks a bit like this. So the subtitle is The Warriors, which is a riff on the old movie, I think. And that level is actually the old subway, so it's a completely different level. The boss is the spellcaster, who's this woman here. And after you fight and defeat her, she gives you the same choice. So it's the same images, either arrest her or accept her offer to work together. And you get the choice on the left or the choice on the right. Again, these are two different images, but as you can imagine, they take you to the same level. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll choose to arrest her, but you'll see that still takes you to the sewer network. That still takes you to a level subtitled Gutter Ballet. It's the exact same level, it just has a different cover image. So please don't think that these are two separate levels. Like you can see on this guide here, we've gone for Pandora's Box, we've gone for Mayhem Rock City, Concrete Jungle, which was the same level no matter what we picked, but here we can see from the cover what option we picked. Then we have the Warrior, so we picked that option there, and now we've picked Gutter Ballet. And like I say, Sewer Network or Gutter Ballet will be the exact same level no matter what the image is, but the image gives you an idea of what you picked to get there. Okay, when you play the Sewer Network, you fight this character who is Lady Vermin. All right, no comment. Let's move on. Lady Vermin gives you the option of either confronting the Enchantress, who's called Corsivain, or confronting someone called Voivoda. Now, in this particular option, we're going to pick Enchantress, and as you'll see, that's the image you see. The subtitle level is Spectral Overload, and it takes you to a level called Codex Entertainment. If you fight Corsivan, this is what she looks like. It's an awesome fight, and that takes you then to the next level or the final level. But before we get into that, as usual, let's pop back for a second. If instead of choosing to confront the Enchantress, we chose to confront Voivoda, then we would have gone to this level, which is a level called Fella Corp, and the subtitle is Corporate Ladder. Now, in this level, we fight this guy here. Slightly annoying way of speaking and a crazy crush on the character Star. But once you defeat him, you then again get to the final level, level 7. Now, the reason I've been a bit coy about level 7 is level 7 could be this. It could be what we call the Prison Riot level. And if you have the Prison Riot level, that has a subtitle of Orange is the New Black. And the level itself is called Chainfield Prison. The boss for the level is this dude. He looks very underwhelming, but trust me, the fight is awesome. Alternatively, as a final level, you could have this. You could have a breach in the dome of Clover Residence, and you need to intervene in that. If you pick that, that subtitle is Land of the Dead, and the title of the level itself is Clover Residence. If you go in there, you fight this dude, who is awesome, and he's even cooler than he looks. Alternatively, there's a third final level, which is this, where Mindbender tells you to come back to the station. If you pick this, again, that's the picture you see at the end. The level itself is called Stronghold Station, and the subtitle is very cool, Who Watches the Watchmen? If you get into that, you end up fighting this antagonist. Obviously, this is all kind of a bit weird. There's 3 levels. How do you get there? So, for example, if you're looking here at how we got to that particular level, Who Watches the Watchmen and Stronghold Station, there's either this way of getting there with these particular choices, and you can see that's the Pandora's Box choice, fighting the Heavy Caster, taking the choice on to have that cover there, then fighting the Spellcaster, then taking that choice for Gutter Ballet, and then fighting Corsivain. Or alternatively, you could do these choices, which involve She-Wolf and Oliver and Voivoda, and you still get the same level. So this is kind of the tricky part I was having. I was trying to understand what choices are necessary to get to what particular endings. And the internet was surprisingly unhelpful on this. I think that's because there's not a dedicated wiki for this game, or at least not yet. It definitely deserves one. And because it was just kind of like comment sections in Reddit and threads like that. It wasn't really very helpful. There's no guide on YouTube for this, hence I kind of felt obligated to make a video. So let's have a look at the levels. I made this little map myself. If we go from left to right, we've got the first level. Then we've got the 2 big choices, either She-Wolf or the Heavy Caster. Then we have the 2 smaller images, which essentially is the same level, but it's just different images to get there. Then we have the choice between Oliver and the Spellcaster. Again, 2 smaller images of Lady Vermin, but it's the Lady Vermin level. Then you have the larger Corsivain or Voivoda choice, and that leads you to the 3 big ending pictures I've got there. So what would I recommend to make choices to get to particular endings? Well, if you're key just to unlock the endings, then in order to unlock the mind bender ending, just take all the right hand choices. That's all you need to do. Here they're depicted on the bottom because obviously I'm doing this landscape rather than portrait. But as you go through, just pick every option which is a right hand option, and you will get through to that ending. Alternatively, if you want the zombie ending or the Land of the Dead ending, just pick the left-hand options every single time. Left hand, left hand, left hand, all the way through, and you get to the zombie ending, the Clover Residence one. The tricky one, or the one I found at least, was Chainfield Prison. And to get this, this is what I did to get this. I started off picking She-Wolf, so a left-hand choice, then another left-hand choice. And then after that, I just picked right-hand choices. And that got me the Chainfield Prison ending. Now, there's a lot of different ways to get this ending. I haven't quite worked out consistently how to do that. So this is just my recommendation if you just want to unlock it. Otherwise, just feel free to play through the game, have fun, try different choices, mess around. Different choices lead to different dialogue trees and different kind of little bits of the story being revealed. So it's all good fun. All right, I hope that was helpful. That's definitely the sort of video I would have found helpful when I started playing the game, just to understand what all the different pictures were and the different levels were. At one point, I thought each branch had like 4 different levels because they have so many different titles and subtitles, and that's not helped by the fact that sometimes they have 2 images for a level, which is actually the same level. So hopefully this really helped you out a lot more. And yeah, feel free to spread the word in the game. Speaking of the game, I'm just going to fan out for a second on the game. If you're interested in knowing more about it, go to the Hero Concept website. I'll try to link it in the description below if I remember, but really cool website, really nicely put together. Kind of puts my website to shame, to be honest. And it's just got a load of cool stuff on there. One of the coolest things I found is that it has a dev diary, which is always great to see. And it's only when looking at the website that I found out that Mayhem Brawler recently won a Game of the Year award. So that's awesome. Again, this game is underrated. It seems to fly under a lot of people's radar, and I'll talk about why and the criticisms people seem to have of it just in just a second. Amazing news that I found on their website. They are making Mayhem Brawler 2, Best of Both Worlds. Brilliant. I am so stoked for this. They're doing a dev diary on it, and it's also just so interesting to read. So I'm really happy about this. I'm really keen to be supporting Mayhem Brawler as much as I can, as just a single person buying a copy. Mayhem Brawler 2 sounds like it's going to be off the hook. It's going to have 8 playable characters. It's going to have more levels, and the narrative isn't just going to be a single A to B narrative with some branching paths. It's going to be a prequel narrative and also a sequel narrative, which is really cool because the Mayhem Brawler storyline is complicated as hell, to be honest. It really feels like I've jumped, when you play the game, it really feels like you jumped into the middle of an ongoing universe. And so the fact that the sequel is going to have prequel stories that unpack a lot of the stuff that's been talked about, as well as the sequel, that's awesome. One of the choices they made as well is they're making it a roguelite, so it procedurally generates enemies each time. That's a bold choice. I don't know how it'll work, but I'm really interested to see it. One thing I will be honest about is I do have a slight concern with the sequel about the artwork. You can see here it's got an example of what the artwork in Mayhem Brawler is, and then the new designs for the new characters. So the characters there is Star with the blonde hair and She-Wolf with the dark hair on the left, and on the right you can see a new version of Star who looks really funky. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm not keen on the redesign of She-Wolf. She-Wolf was kind of more of a urban street level hero. This kind of weird designer boardroom look, I'm not really sure about, but you know what? I'm going to totally give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll be really interested to see how that art style sort of evolves and changes, and whether or not there's going to be transferable skins. It'd be really cool if I could have different outfits for the different characters. So if there's an outfit I don't like, I could then just unlock a new one. Another concern I generally have with Mayhem Brawler 2, and a little bit with Mayhem Brawler, I guess, when you go on the website, is just the translation. I totally get English isn't their first language. I totally get that. In fact, not a lot of people realize this, but English isn't my first language either. So I completely understand the difficulties in translating stuff. I would ask that hopefully they're getting some better translation, both for the website and for the game, because some of the storyline, or at least some of the dialogue in the game, was like, I'm not sure this is translated across brilliantly. Could do with some tightening up. And the other final thing, which I guess I'm slightly frustrated about in Mayhem Brawler 2, is we're going to have to wait for it. It's not going to be ready until 2024. Gutted. But yeah, if you want to know more about the game, yeah, check out the website and check out the stuff they have to say. One thing I'm going to address, which is the elephant in the room, is I think there's a lot of criticism when Mayhem Brawler came out, or at least one of the reasons it didn't get the scores it deserved, is a lot of people compared it to Streets of Rage 4 and said, oh, it's basically just not as good. I'm not sure that's a fair criticism. I am a massive Streets of Rage fan. I bought Streets of Rage 4 immediately the moment it came out. I've played it maybe 60 or 70 times. Huge fan of the game. I grew up with Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3. And so, yeah, obviously, I love Streets of Rage 4. It's incredible. But Mayhem Brawler is the first game in a series. And I think for people now growing up that haven't played Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3 in the 90s, that don't have that kind of mawkish nostalgia that I admit I do have, if you were to play this and pick it up from cold, I don't see it really being any worse than Streets of Rage 4 at all. I wouldn't say it's better. I would say it's an equal companion game. The artwork is similar, sure, it's a similar style, but so is Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, and Battlefront, and games like that. So just because something's got a similar aesthetic, there's no need to criticize it. It's got a different mechanic, it's got a different way of fighting, different combos, different enemies, different stories, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. If, like me, you've played loads of Streets of Rage 4 and you fancy something different, but actually you really enjoy Streets of Rage 4, Mayhem Brawler is a brilliant choice. Similarly, if you played Mayhem Brawler loads and you feel like you fancy something new with some new levels, but there's just no more Mayhem Brawler on the horizon until 2024, pick up Streets of Rage 4. It will definitely scratch that itch. I think these two games both have equal pride of place in my collection. Personally, I have more attachment to Streets of Rage 4, but that's because I grew up with it as a teenager back in the 90s. I've got 30 years of emotional baggage there. If you don't have that, Mayhem Brawler is a brilliant choice to check out. And finally, just gonna promote Mayhem Brawler Physical Edition. This is on Red Art Games' website. Red Art Games I've used to pick up a few different things. They're based in France, but they've got all English language stuff. I picked up my Mayhem Brawler Switch Physical Edition from the website. They're still available. Highly recommend them if you're into physical stuff, as I am. And yeah, that's where to pick that up. Okay, everyone. That's pretty much the end of the video. The one cautionary tale I will say is that if you have had confusion trying to piece things together online, or if you find stuff online that contradicts all the images I've shown, the level titles I've given, and so on, I'll just point out there are occasionally images like this floating around online, which is from the public beta of Mayhem Brawler, because it's kind of a thing they iterated with the fans, and you might find older artwork or older titles and stuff like that, which I also found and initially confused the hell out of me. If you find stuff like this, or if you find anything contradicting the stuff I've shown in the video so far, ignore it. It's just from the original public beta or private alpha or whatever they did to test the game. Okay, wow, long video. My first video game overview. Loads of fun to do. I'm really happy to be providing some kind of support for Mayhem Brawl and the Hero Concept team. This is not, by the way, any kind of sponsored video. I've never spoken to them. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just a little tiny YouTuber that's just trying to promote stuff that's underrated and just trying to make content that other people haven't made on YouTube that I wish they had, because I would have found it useful, I'll tell you that. But yeah, just promoting an underrated game. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Love to hear what you think in the comments below. Are you interested in hearing me do any more video game related videos? I'm probably going to do a few. I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum, but let me know what you think. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.